Okay, modern, classic. A lot of horsepower, reliable, a lot of horsepower. You might have to tweak with it a little bit to get it running in the morning.
My turn?
Your turn.
Cool, not cool.
Ow! All right, hello everybody, Yancey here. Y'all know this guy, Mr. Mike Phillips. We are here once again in the operating room.
The OR.
The OR, the Dr. Beasley's OR. And if you haven't already, please hit the like, share, and also subscribe. So that way, whenever we do go live, you'll be notified.
Yes, exactly.
So, honestly, it's like the power of Pontiac and Dodge in here right now. I feel like I'm ready to go to the racetrack.
It's a Mopar reunion.
Yeah, well, you know. Anyways, so what are we doing here today? Oh, wait a minute. First of all, coming up. What do you have coming up?
Mobile Tech Expo.
All right, tell these people.
Oh, I got a class called Detailing 101 on Wednesday, January 31st, starting at 1 p.m. This is a new thing for Mobile Tech Expo. It's called Detailing 101. There's 6 different classes, 6 different presenters. They asked me to come in and do one on Detailing 1. I'm going to cover how to detail a car from start to finish. It is going to be an intense class. It'll be almost like being here for a real class, except for you actually don't get to do anything. You just got to look at me and look at the pictures I put on the PowerPoint.
I'm sorry for you.
Best I can do.
So that class, though, that class, let's just clarify on this. So you are one of 6, or one of 7.
One of 6.
One of 6 teachers. So you're going to learn, if you take that class all day long, you're going to be learning how to detail from start to finish with all these different instructors.
No, just me.
Just you?
I covered that class. There's 5 other topics.
So there's 5 different, so you get a crash course to anything doing with detailing.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty cool
Basically, class. Our one-day extreme detailing class, I have pictures from everything you do in that class. So if you've ever wondered what it's like to take one of our classes compared to everything else on the market,
you'll get a C.
You'll get a C because these were taken at the last class.
Okay.
It's intense.
Your other classes. What are your other classes?
We have a class coming up here. It's on Saturday. It's a one-day extreme.
No, the MTE. I'm sorry.
Oh, the other one. Yeah. Then on Thursday, which is the normal education day, I have a glass polishing class, which we'll talk about with this car here. I have a class specifically on NSP primer technology, some of the best abrasive technology in the market today. And then I teach a class I used to teach up there for years called How to Become the Detailing Expert in Your Hometown. And it's kind of how you fill your schedule with nothing but cool cars instead of things like, 4-door Honda Accord.
And on that, before we went live, I was reading a comment up there, and actually somebody asked if we could do a live detail class going over that topic. So that could be a topic here before too long. So that way, if you weren't at MTE,
sure, I could do that,
we could do it in one of these classes.
I'll tell you, that is a very interesting class, how to become the detailing expert in your hometown, because in the nutshell version, here's what most guys do, and I know you've seen them do this. Yeah. Detailers will go to a car show. Here's Yancey's car or this car here on display, and you try to give them your business card.
Here you go. Take my business card. Hire me. And I'm going to walk away now.
You point out how swirled out their car is, and you're excited because you can fix it. The problem is you just hurt this person's
feelings.
You insulted them. They don't know you. They're never going to let you touch their baby. And what I discovered by accident was how to take the back door in and have them ask you to detail their car. So I share that. We can make a live video.
It's called reverse psychology, Mike.
Yeah, kind of like that. I call it the back door in, so it works good.
And so that's MTE. Then any other classes?
We have a class, one-day extreme detailing class here on Saturday, January 20th. I got really cool cars, including a 70 Cuda that I posted pictures on social media. Is completely swirled out, and you're going to start out that day taking a rotary polisher to a real 70 Cuda 440 Plymouth, yeah.
Anything
black paint.
Anything with muscle is happy with
that
me.
class is technically sold out, but sometimes you get cancellations. So if you were planning on getting signed up for that and you kind of waited too long, then give me a call and I can see if there's a cancellation, get back a hold of you. Just call my cell, 760-515-0444. Then in February, on February 16th, 17th, and 18th, we have our huge 3-day class coming up, and that's where you get to work on cool cars. So everything we do in our one-day class, then the next day is dry sanding by hand, dry sanding machine. I bring in real street rods that have orange pill.
You're working on the real thing, not
real, no demo hoods, yeah. And then the third day is boat detailing. I bring in the worst condition boats.
Oh, these are bad.
Barely bad. And then, but that way I can teach you the most things. So when you leave here, you'll know the most profitable and popular topics. You'll have those skills under your belt and the knowledge base in your brain.
And you'll be really, really tired. So with that, let's get into position.
Okay.
And hold on, we didn't tell them. What are we doing with these cars?
Hard paint versus soft paint.
Okay.
Is this paint soft or hard?
No, this paint is rock hard.
It's rock hard.
I mean, well, he knows I polished this probably like 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
I haven't polished it since. And
it looks great.
And it's still no swirl marks, which we can show you later. This is what, single stage?
Single stage, but a modern urethane. So it's a modern paint like this has, just without the clear coat.
All right,
and
so
it's
yeah,
soft.
butter.
Oh.
All right, so let me get over here.
Okay.
You get to where you need to go, and then we'll get this show going.
So the topic of hard paint versus soft paint comes up all the time. Which camera am I on?
You're on this one over here.
Okay, so, and one of the things I just want to point out is it's a really popular topic. This is my second how-to book that was published, and the print date for this is 2011, and on pages 9 and 10, I cover the topic of hard paint versus soft paint, and I'll kind of give you the nutshell version of that. Everybody wants to know, how can you tell hard paint from soft paint? And everybody wants like some kind of simple answer, but the answer, the honest answer is this. You do a test spot, and then you need experience, okay? You have to have buffed out a few cars in your life, so when you do a test spot, you make some section patches on the paint, wipe off and look, and you see the scratches are gone. Because of your experience, you'd be able to know, oh, this paint, definitely not hard because I got the scratches out just by doing a simple test spot. If you do a test spot and you wipe off and there's just tons of swirls and scratches left, then that starts to become an indicator that the paint is no longer in that soft spectrum. It's up there to the medium or to the hard spectrum. But anyway, the bigger picture point is everybody wants the easy answer. The easy answer is you need experience. So if you're brand new, a little more hard to do a test spot and determine if paint is hard or soft because there's just so many variables. Maybe you didn't push down on the polisher hard enough. Maybe you pressed down, you moved your arm too fast. Maybe you're using the wrong tool, the wrong pad, the wrong product. So there's a lot of variables. But that's what I'm saying. Once you become a seasoned expert, and detailers primarily, like everybody has their flavor that they like, you know, whether it's the Dr. Beasley's or McGuire's or Optimum Polymer Technologies. There's a lot of great products out there, and you have to become knowledgeable and comfortable and, keyword, experienced with that abrasive technology, because that's really what it comes down to, is the abrasive technology, the pads, and the tools. How do you like that?
Makes sense to me.
And one of the things I've been trying to teach people for years is when it comes to polishing paint, the most important factor is the abrasive technology. And the reason why, and I meet a lot of detailers, and you know what's funny, Yancey, is a lot of people that are attracted to detailing, to me, it just seems to like they're the kind of the alpha male, ego-driven kind of guy. So when they're done with the car, they stand back and they do this like, look how good I am. I did this. And it is true, you did move the polisher, but you never touched the paint. What touched the paint was the abrasive technology. Behind the abrasive technology was the pad, behind the pad is the tool, and behind the tool is the other tool, okay, the person. So you're the furthest thing removed from the magic taking place at the surface level. And then this is something I think a lot of people don't really understand. It's really easy to think that everything on the market is good, but it's not true.
Yeah, that's not true.
And you know me, I don't like to use bad language, so I'm not going to, but I divide abrasive technology into two groups. That's it, two groups. There's great and not so great, or crud. Here's the deal. When and you prove everything on black paint, by the way. Black paint will show everything. But when you buff on a paint on a car, the abrasive technology is going to do one of two things. It's going to remove defects and leave a nice looking finish, or it's going to remove defects and leave its own scratching behind. So that's the difference between great and less than great. Great abrasive technology has the ability to remove defects without leaving its own marks behind in the paint. And if you're using products that are leaving marks in the paint, like we call it micro-marring or tick marks or DA haze, then there's nothing you can do to really fix it. You need to change abrasive technology. Pick a different brand and get familiar with that.
Yeah, true story.
Anyway, so here's the deal. This is a 1969 GTO. There's a little board back here about it. It's one of 249 built. And I've already detailed this car, and I'm sad to say that it went in for some mechanical work. It had to do with the ignition and I think some alignment of the panels. And then the shop that did the work, as a favor to the owner, they wiped it down with their shop rag, and it's completely scratched up again. And I'm kind of disappointed because this is soft paint. It is kind of a pain to buff out. I'd also like to point out that if you go to the Dr. Beasley's blog, this is actually the windshield I used for a subsurface detailing article using, at the time it was the brand new Dr. Beasley's NSP GL glass polish. And this thing just had horrendous wiper marks. Okay, so they're in an arc pattern, the way the blades, everywhere. And I spent about 5 or 6 hours machine polishing it. There's some chips in here that we, can't fix, but the wiper marks are gone. And here's the thing. When it comes to polishing glass, a lot of people say, well, Mike, why don't you just replace it? Well, a couple things. This is an all-original car. The owner doesn't want to put a new piece of glass in here. He wants the original glass, so he'd rather have the scratches taken out. The other thing is sometimes the glass isn't available. It's just not available. You might be able to get a reproduction out of a foreign country, but an OEM, original equipment manufacturer, original old stock windshield might not be available. And then the third reason people don't want to replace the glass and rather polish it is when you pull this out of here, I'll guarantee you, your chances are good on an older car like this, you're going to find rust.
Oh, and there goes the fun.
No self-respecting car guy is just going to slap the glass in. They're going to go tell their wife, honey, I told you we were just going to replace the glass, but I decided to, do a rotisserie restoration. We're going to pull the motor, take the brake lines off. We're going to go through the whole car. You just took the road off for years, and you're going to dump a ton of money into it versus just polishing it and keep driving it and enjoying it. So there's 3 reasons to polish scratches out of glass, and I cover that at Old Tech. And in most of our classes I cover, not all of them. Just depends on which class you take. Okay, so this paint has soft paint. Now, it's not the softest paint I've ever worked on. And some of you guys know what I talk about that when you just take a towel and wipe the paint, the towel can leave a scratch. That's really soft. But this is fairly soft. And if you want to come up here, Yancey, let's, this is the kind of scratches that were left, let me know where to hold this, from the shop that wiped this down with a dirty rag.
Okay, right there.
So it's not horrible, but this thing was flawless. This thing was already taken to a concours d'elegance when I was done and took 3rd place. I mean, this thing was as close to flawless as I could get it. And then it got all scratched up again. So to determine whether you have hard paint or soft paint, what you want to do is called a test spot. And now when you're doing a test spot, it's usually a good idea for your initial test spot to not go to the extreme of one end and using a soft finishing pad and a fine cut polish, or go to the extreme at the other end using an aggressive wool pad or microfiber pad and an aggressive compound. You want to go right to that sweet spot in the middle. Find a polish, not a compound, not a finishing polish, but right in the middle, a polish and a foam polishing pad. And then do what I teach is 8 section passes, and then wipe off and inspect. Now, if all the defects are gone using a foam polishing pad and a polish, that would tell me that paint's probably pretty soft, or at least it's on the soft side of medium. If it had little or no effect at all, then that would tell me that paint's on the medium to hard side, and now I need to start increasing either the aggressiveness of my product, the aggressiveness of my pad, and even a more aggressive tool, and sometimes just more passes. There's a lot of different variables. Polishing paint, I always use back in the old days, we had an equalizer. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Yancey had a Craco equalizer instead of a Pioneer. He got his
at Alpine.
He got his at Kmart. And, you adjust it so the sound looks perfect. Here it sounds perfect to you. Anyway,
that's a good analogy, though. I never thought of it that way.
I'm just loving giving you a hard time today. Okay, so this is arguably the safest tool in the world. Okay, this is a Porter cable. It's an 8mm free spinning polisher. And nowadays, back when this was introduced, I think Meguiar's and Griot's both introduced this to the paint polishing world about the same time, back in the 1980s, because back then all we had was rotaries and what they call a traditional orbital polish, which I have one back there. And the rotary's super aggressive, and the TOB, the traditional orbital buffer, is useless. It spreads wax. So this is a great way to do a test spot, because if you can fix it or dial in a process with this, you can always upgrade to a more powerful tool. I got the Rupes, I got the Flex here, or the Griot's Garage, and knock out the paint correction process even faster than this. What is safe to say is a fairly slow tool when it comes to paint correction. It
gets the job done, but it's a turtle.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and put a foam polishing pad on. So this, and just real quickly, let me just show you this. These are Lake Country pads, but all the pad manufacturers have something very similar. So this is a foam cutting pad. This is a foam polishing pad. And this is a foam finishing pad. So this is fairly stiff and has a sharpness to it. This is quite a bit softer, not really sharp at all. And of course, this is just gushy soft, and there's no softness to this at all. In fact, I always put my makeup on in the morning with this one.
That joke never gets old.
Okay, so right in this sweet spot, this is a foam polishing pad. Let me center this up on the Porter cable. And also, since I'm here using the Porter cable, notice the marks on the backing plate. And the reason people mark the backing plate, and gosh, I've been teaching people how to do this for 20 years now, is because without those marks, when you're looking down on a free spinning tool like this, that backing plate, that yellow just becomes a blur. You can't see if it's rotating, is it stalling out. Once you put a mark on there, it's kind of like a timing mark, and now you can see that it's either just stalling out, or when I turn the speed up, you can actually see it start to spin now. And that's important because anytime you're doing paint correction, you want to see, with a free spinning tool like this, you want to see both rotation and oscillation. Defect removal will be faster if you have both of those working for you versus if the pad is just jiggling or vibrating against the paint. Okay, so let me come in here and I'm just going to do a test spot. And normally when you do a test spot, you want to do a section about 16 inches by 16 inches. So, just something kind of small. I always recommend doing it on a horizontal surface like the hood or the trunk lid that you can look down on to make inspection good. Plus, a lot of times the horizontal surfaces take the brunt of the damage from Mother Nature and wear and tear. So if the defects will be worse on the horizontal surfaces than more commonly on the vertical side. So if you fix it here, when you go and repeat the results of your test spots to the vertical panels, if it works here, it's going to work there. If you do it on the side and there's not that many defects, then you jump up to one of the horizontal panels that might have more defects and deeper defects. You might find what worked on the side of the fender isn't working on the hood, the trunk lid, or the roof. So that's why I say do a test spot on a horizontal surface. Okay, so I'm just going to do a test spot right here. And to start this out, in the Dr. Beasley line, we call these primers because they prime the paint for the ceramic coating. You don't have to use a panel wipe after you use these. You can go right to the coating. There's no organic ingredients in these. They're all inorganic, so there's nothing naturally occurring in there. They're very synthetic, so to speak. And in our line, the 150 is the most aggressive, the 45 is the least aggressive, the 95 is right in that sweet spot in the middle, so that's what I'm going to use. You always want to shake well before you use. These are hyper concentrated. So Yancey knows me. I've never been the pea-sized drop guy. But when I came to work for Dr. Beasley's, I had to retrain myself. And basically, because this is a dry pad, I am going to put down, let's say, 4 drops. But once that pad is broken in, you can literally drop down to just 3 pea-sized drops and work it twice as long than maybe you would. You always want to see a film of product on the surface, but these are very unique to the industry abrasive technology. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do at a low speed is I'm just going to spread my product out to get it spread out. Okay, so here is my work area, and now I've got a uniform layer of abrasive technology. My pad is more or less broken in, so now I'm going to make 8 solid section passes. And for those that have watched these classes, me and Yancey have been put on for decades now, one of the things I teach is when you're in a room by yourself buffing, always count your section passes out loud. If you dial in that the car and the paint you're working on needs 2 section passes, then count it out. 1, 2, move on. 1, 2, move on. If it takes 10, then count out 10, because what happens is the human mind tends to wander. You'll forget where you're at, and over the course of buffing out an entire car, you'll start to make extra passes to make sure you made enough passes. And that'll
what pass was there? I'll just throw one more in.
It'll add a whole hour to the buffing time. So I meet guys that follow my advice all the time on this, and they say, thanks for that tip. It cut my buffing time down by an hour. So do it, don't do it, I don't care. I do it all the time. Okay, all the pressure's down on the head of the surface, the head of the tool, not back here, or I would be buffing crooked. So put the weight down here, and then I'm pushing down about, I'd say, right now that's about 15 pounds. I'm pretty good at guessing weight because what I've done in the past is I put a tool like this on a normal bathroom scale and do the same thing. I push on this and then look and see what the scale says. That was 2. 3. 4. And I see a lot of scratches are still in there. 5. There's 6. By the way, as I move this over the paint, that's called your arm speed. So if you ever see somebody talking about your arm speed, that's what they mean. How fast are you moving your arms? Which are moving the polisher. That was 7, and here's 8. Nice and slow, very controlled. Always turn the polish off before you lift the pad off, or you'll throw splatter everywhere. And on these classic cars, Yancey, this is what you want to avoid, is throwing splatter down what they call the fresh air grill. Whenever I go to a car show, or if I detail a car personally or teach in a class, I teach the students and I practice myself to look down there to see if there's little white splatter dots.
The other guy's wax.
Before I worked on the car, so I know the other guy did it. Now, because it's really hard to get them out. But when I find that there are splatter dots, I cover that up, and I got a couple techniques I can show how to cover that up safely. So
There's
you don't pull
another
paint off.
live detailing class.
Another reason. And but I'm not going to be the guy that puts splatter dots down there. Okay, so now when I come back and look at this, there's still a lot of scratches in here. So this paint is soft, I know from experience. But here's what that means. The person that wiped this thing down was using a contaminated towel and put deeper scratches in, because the shallow scratches came out, but the deeper ones are still there. So then what I would do from here is I would go ahead and bump up to a more aggressive pad, a more aggressive product, or a more powerful tool. You want me to demonstrate that?
You do.
You do me, I'll do. Okay, so tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna switch over.
Give me the light.
Yes.
That way I can.
Okay, I'm gonna switch over to the Beast.
All right, he's going to do that. I'm going to show you where we're at.
This is the Beast.
All right.
And this is a gear-driven 8mm. So what's interesting is both the Porter cable and the Beast are both 8mm. It's just one is free spinning and one is gear-driven. So one has a ton of power, one is kind of weak.
There's a few scratches.
See the deeper scratches in there?
There's a couple, but
most of them came out.
It's definitely better than what it was.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, look, this is a bona fide show car. You know, when I use the term show car, here's how I would explain that. If you were to go to the local car show, you'd see a car like this on display. You actually might see one of these too, because these are really cool cars. I was only ribbing you saying it wasn't cool.
Yeah, see my car.
Okay, so I put on a blue foam cutting pad. I've already broken this one in because I actually have to finish this car tonight. When you guys all get done watching this and you go home, I'll be here working late.
Attaboy.
So here is three. I tried to get pea-size drops, but it came out as nickel-size drops. This is, by the way, the new 150. So they've increased the abrasive powders on this so it cuts faster. So let me just go ahead and spread this out, and then I'll make it 6 passes. We'll come back and look again. So they're spreading. I'm going to push. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I'm going to bring my pressure up a little bit, do a little finish polishing. There's guys out there that teach to maintain the same pressure throughout the entire buffing cycle. I've never believed in that. I believe polishing paint is an art form, not a grinding process. But you know, whatever works for you. Okay, now I'm not looking for a perfect finish. What I'm looking for is all them deeper scratches are gone, and now they are gone. Okay, so, and that's just one of the factors, Yancey. When you're detailing cars, not only is it paint hardness, softness, or, you know, that sweet spot in between, which is really where you want your car paint, but it's the depth of the defects, you know. A deeper defect will just take longer to buff out. The paint might be soft, but it's deep. You got to take more paint off. It's always a leveling process. Okay, from here, the next thing I would do, and that I'm going to dial in my process. You know, again, this is a show car, so I need to put a show car finish on it. It's actually going to another Concours d'Elegance in February. So I put a foam polishing pad. This is the 95. I'm going to come back and refine. Just there you go. Here's pea-sized drops. Okay. That's what you want after your pad. Oops. After your pad's broken. Okay, and we're going to talk about pads here in a second too. Don't let me forget to cover that microfiber. Okay. Okay, so product spread out. Now I'm just kind of refining. Refining takes fewer passes. I think that was 4 basically. Okay. And come back, and that actually is an acceptable finish for a show car, and I could go ahead and ceramic coat that. For this car, I'm going to do the optional step. I do that for all show car work. I'm going to hit it with the NSP 45 and a soft foam finishing pad, only because this is soft paint. I'm going to switch over to a free spinning random orbital. Now,
okay.
I posted a little video clip about this coming up, and someone mentioned to me, hey, Mike, I saw you using a free spinning tool. And, you know, look, I am known as a beast guy, but I want to tell you, I believe long stroke polishers like this Bigfoot 21, I believe they will put the nicest finish, especially on softer paints, just because of that random polishing.
The action of the tool.
Yeah, just because it's not gear driven. And I found on soft paints that oftentimes a gear driven tool like the Beast will induce marring that a free spinning tool won't. I actually found that out buffing out a Ferrari P3 red single stage. You can find that article on Google still. But I cut it. I did the first step with the Beast, and I come back and use the Porter cable, and someone came up in my article and says, Mike, why'd you switch over to the Porter cable? I says, yeah, because soft single stage paint finish out better more consistently with this free spinning tool like this than a gear driven tool. Okay, let's watch the magic happen. This, by the way, was given to me by Rupes. It is the number 16 Mark II ever built. Okay, spread my product out. And you know me, Yancy, if there was a 7, I would go to it. There's 5. And now we're just talking about the weight of the tool. These are such nice tools. They're so ergonomic, well balanced. I can't wait to get my hands on the new electric one. And you can see with NSP 45, we're barely abrading. We're barely pulling any paint. So it's a true finishing polish. Okay, come in here, just wipe this off. And now we have a flawless finish. This is going to look good when this thing's out on the lawn at the next car show in full sun. The owner can be proud of it. He can show it off. And if he's lucky, maybe someone will come by and offer him a huge price for it. Okay, do you want to come in and look at that at all?
Yeah, let me go ahead and hit the light.
Sure.
Then bounce it up at me. Go back towards the windshield. There you go. Yeah, that is flawless.
It's flawless.
Okay,
Ready.
so now,
Ready for coating.
here's the question. Somebody just bought this car. How would they know that it's soft paint? Or what?
The average owner would never know how to tell, except for if every time they washed it and dried it, they saw more and more swirls and scratches. So, good question. So, I always teach this. The way swirls and scratches get into car paint are by the way we touch it. And here's how we touch it. Wash mitt, drying towel, wiping towel. Before you wash the car, you need to inspect that wash mitt. If you see like a stick or some leaves in there, don't be using it on this. Your drying towel, a lot of drying towels now, really nice. They got this big closed loop. They absorb water like nothing. But that closed loop, sticks will go into it, okay, and get trapped in there. So you can't drop them on the ground. You've got to keep them clean. And when you dry the water off the car, you're going to scratch the car. And of course, your wiping towels. Of course, you know me, Yancy. I always teach people before you use a towel, look at it, feel it with your hand, and keep a pair of tweezers handy. I got tweezers over there by the laundry station. And a lot of times you can pull it out. If you can't, then I take and turn this into something to wipe oil off the ground in here when these cars like yours leak.
Oh, no. All right, now the second question.
Okay.
When you're doing, or second, I don't know
Good
what
question.
you call it. So say you got this car and you're having troubles, you know, it's like constantly leaving micro-marring and stuff like that. How do you know what to fix?
Okay, well,
Like, say somebody else, how do you know that you'd find the right chemical?
Well, it would go back to starting with the test spot.
Right.
Yeah, and here's where and that can be kind of hard, because what if you're working on a white or a silver or a beige colored car? It's going to be hard to see micromarring, but there's some products out there that they're just not what you think. They're not as good as you hope and not what you think. So how about I do a little demonstration here? And I'm not trying to make anybody look bad, but this is a finishing polish from another company. Not going to say the brand. I'm going to take and I'm going to put on a super soft pad. So I've got a finishing pad over here. Feel that, Yancey. Is that soft?
Here, I'll let the people feel it.
It is so soft. Okay. Center that up.
That's a humongous pad.
And what I'm going to do is, you just saw me polish out this section here. I'm just going to run the polisher down the center here, and then we'll take a look and see how that looks. Again, keep in mind, this is a finishing polish. It's sold as a finishing polish. You'd expect it to be good. It's on the market. Isn't everything on the market good? Okay.
That's what the Facebook ad said.
Light pressure. A little bit of paint coming off. It's not an aggressive product. I'm going to get a fresh towel. Okay. Let's grab our handheld light here. Okay, see how it's cloudy now?
Go back towards the windshield. There you go. All right, go over.
Come this way. Right here's where I buffed. It's foggy now, where this is clear back here.
All right, go. Let me see the light.
Okay, yeah, Yancey is better at doing this.
All right, it's clear. And it gets foggy.
Foggy, cloudy looking. That's micro marring.
There's the, here, hold that light like right.
Right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
The line is right there, is where the fogginess is at.
Okay, so the pad didn't do that. The abrasive technology did that. So, you know, look.
You can see how the light,
Yeah.
I'm getting it in there. You can see how the light, go back towards the windshield. There you go. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. All right, right there. See how right there it's all nice and clear?
Rich color, rich in color.
Then you come over this way.
Starts to
then
get
it's getting
cloudy.
foggy. Then you can actually see a halo form around the light.
Yeah, okay, it is. And so, and
Oh, shit. There's a car there.
Don't scratch your car. Okay, so here's the behind the scenes story. Before I went to work for Dr. Beasley's, I was working on this car with that product, and I thought that product was really good. And it was removing the defects, removed them fine, but it didn't leave the paint looking good. It left it all cloudy. So I just happened to have the doctor's NSP, Dr. Beasley's NSP primers with me. So I threw one of those on a pad, and everywhere I polished it turned it clear. And I was going, wow, I thought that other stuff had good abrasive technology. This stuff has better abrasive technology. Because it's one thing to be able to make a product that'll work on hard paint like that, but if you can make a product that'll work on both hard and soft paint, you've really dialed it in. In fact, one of my chemist friends told me the hardest thing that he had to do was create compounds and polishes and AIOs all in once, things with abrasives that worked on the wide spectrum of paint, both hard and soft. And he says that's the hardest part about the chemistry. It's easy to make one for like a specific paint, but not for every paint.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, now let's bring in the pads.
Okay, so let me step back here.
All right.
And what I wanted to do is, because I've been in this industry for so long, I know where all the bodies are buried. I was at McGuire's when they invented the microfiber pad. They invented it for the OEM. It's used on these things called polishing decks, where if they saw a defect in the paint, they would pull it off to the side, they would fix it. They had to do it real quick and fast, and they needed a pad that would cut fast and polish good. And so they made these things called microfiber pads. That's the history for them. They were something for the OEM. In fact, when I was at McGuire's, the office just outside of my office and Mike Pennington's office was a cabinet full of these OEM microfiber pads. And this is back in 2003, 2004. And I don't think McGuire's introduced the commercial system that everybody knows about until about 2011 or 2012.
Yeah, we did the video with Jason.
Because we made the video with Jason Rose and Mike Pennington out there. And but here's the behind the scenes story that no one's ever going to tell you. The reason Meguiar's brought out the microfiber DA system, at least one of the reasons, was to try to get the industry off of wool pads on rotary buffers, because all the dealerships and all the auction houses and all the detail shops, they would cut with these, but it leaves holograms. The fibers themselves leave a cut in the paint called a hologram. Okay, so then you got to come back and fix it. But in the industry, they didn't fix it. They just send the car out. Now the people get their cars.
Put a glaze on it, kick it out the door.
Oh, my car look all swirled out. So they came up with microfiber pads. And here's a couple real popular ones. This is a Rupes. This is a Buff and Shine. This is a Lake Country.
Then everybody knows that one.
Yeah, the Oreo. And I'm not sure what these are. I picked these up at SEMA from somebody. But they're fiber pads that you can use on a DA. So, but here's the thing. So when and back then, Meguiar's was selling what they called the G100, which is basically a copy of this. It's an 8mm free spinning polisher. So how do you make something that's so weak like this able to do correction like this? You change the pad. So you add fiber, which is an abrasive. So that was one component. The other component was the chemicals, of course. And anyway, they introduced this thing called the microfiber DA system, and it was an effort to get the industry off of wool pads on rotaries, putting a lot of holograms in, still give a guy a tool that could cut well, but also finish out nice. And for the most part, and this was primarily targeted at production detailing, not show car detailing, but production detailing, which it would get you by. But that's kind of the history. But this is where the problem is. Anytime you're using a fiber pad, okay, the fibers, these individual fingers are cutting the paint. That's great, you're getting a braiding ability. The problem is when people try to finish with these on softer paints. This would probably finish out Yancey on your hard paint just fine. But when you get to medium to soft paints, it's gonna leave tick marks, DA haze, or what we call micromarring, and it's the fibers. And the reason foam doesn't do that, because foam has a uniform surface texture. It doesn't have individual fibers cutting the paint. So what I always tell people, most people know I don't use a lot of microfiber pads in any of my detail work. I quit showing them in my classes. I show people, look, if you need to get in there and cut, you get the wool pad on
Get in there and cut.
Get in, get out, as I like to say. And then come back with a foam pad on any brand of orbital, remove the holograms, and have that show car finish. But anyway, that's a little bit I just wanted to talk about pads, because I know a lot of people really love microfiber pads. I don't have nothing against them. I just don't use them because I know how to use something that's quicker, faster, and then I switch over to foam on orbitals.
All right. Anything else you got on this?
I'm looking at my notes. Oh, here's something. You know, when I go up in the internet world, a lot of times I see people, if they're asking a question about buffing out a car, and they're going to use an AIO, an all-in-one. In the old days, we called it a cleaner wax. We make one called Z1. Instead of putting wax down, it puts down ceramic, and it removes swirls and scratches just great, and you can buff out a car in one step. That's the whole point of an AIO. But here's the problem I see in the internet world. If someone asks how to use an AIO, and the experts in the industry will say, well, what you need to do is get a foam cutting pad or a microfiber pad to use with that AIO, because that way you've got the more aggressive foam or the fiber working for you to get the defects out to make that customer happy. That sounds like perfect logic. The problem is if you end up on a paint that's soft, like say a lot of Hondas have soft paint, and you're using a cutting pad or a microfiber pad trying to do one step, you will leave micromarring. You'll stand back and look at it, and then you'll rebuff the car with a foam pad and something less aggressive to pull the micromarring, and you just turned what should have been a one step into two steps. You just lost any profit you would have made. So anyway, so keep that in mind, that you can't always use an AIO with aggressive pad if the paint is soft. On a harder paint, you could get away with it. But the other thing is there's another side of that coin. When people are talking about offering their customers, or for your own cars, doing a one-step process, if you're doing it for money, the first thing you should do is explain to the customer that if they choose your one-step package, not your three-step package like I'm doing to this car, it costs less. But the downside is you're not going to get all the swirls and scratches out. So don't promise to. Tell the customer, look, Bob, I can get them all out, but that's my package 2 or package 3, not my package 1, which is an AIO. Happy to do it, takes more time, will cost you more money. And then they say, well, no, this is my budget. Fine, but you know, you need to set their expectations, because otherwise they'll come in and go, I don't know, Mike, I still see some pretty deep scratches here in the hood on this GTO. And I'll say, well, you picked my entry-level package, an AIO. I'm never going to get them out with that. It takes more work, takes more time, takes more pads, more chemicals, different tools. So you have to educate your customers on that. Then test spot fiber versus, single stage versus base coat clear coat. When we talk about hard paint and soft paint, and notice how I'm going to preface this. I'm going to say, generally speaking, okay? Generally speaking, modern clear coats are harder than traditional single stage paints. Generally speaking, the exception to the rule is single stage white paint, because when you're working on a base coat clear coat finish like this, you're working on pure resin. Whatever that paint system is, DuPont, Sikkens, Glazerite, PBG, the base coat, the colored part, and the flake in this case are below the clear coat. So all you're working on is clear coat, which technically is called resin. It's a paint resin. Now when you work on single stage, it's resin plus pigment is mixed in. Kind of like a gel coat boat. It's polyester resin with pigment. If it's a blue boat, it's blue pigment. And what happens is the hardness or the softness of the pigment adulterates or pollutes or contaminates the resin, making it either harder or softer. And the pigment they use to create white is titanium dioxide powder. It's a very hard mineral. You mix it with the resin and paint a car, now you've got a really hard single stage paint. The softest paint is single stage black, because the pigment for black is carbon black. And a simple analogy or simple example for carbon black is, lift up the hood of a barbecue and the black soot, don't do this when it's hot.
I hope not.
That black soot, that's a simple form of carbon black. It's very black, okay? And it's very soft. Now you add that with resin, now that paint job is very soft. In fact, one of the softest paint jobs I've ever buffed out would be two. I did a 1949 Pontiac convertible, and I did a 1994 Porsche. The Porsche had base coat clear coat, very, very soft. In fact, I fixed that paint job with a Lake Country foam finishing pad and a fine cut polish. I pulled every defect out with those non-abrasive pads and products. And then the Pontiac, I think I actually finished it out the same basic way, with just a finishing pad. And at the time I was using a fine cut AIO, and got a flawless finish on both black paints. But that's the kind of the difference between base coat clear coat and single stage. Generally speaking, base coat clear coats are harder than single stage. The exception is white single stage paint.
All right, you ready to take some classes?
Sure.
The brain dump done?
I think I got all my notes, yes.
All right, so here I am, the voice from the nether. I will be taking your questions. So if you do have a question, you haven't posted already, get it out there. We got probably like 15, 20 minutes that we're going to be doing this. So let's get to it. Let's put you back on mic. And actually, I can bring me up over here. I'll be down in the bottom. How about that? We have Humberto, our buddy from Puerto Rico. Hello, Mike and Yancey. Then we have Rick Smith coming in here. Oh, and I keep on putting those on top of me. We have Rick in here. Hello, everybody. And this was the one question that I said earlier. Hey guys, thanks again. This is optical clarity detailing, sorry. Hey guys, thanks again for doing these videos. Would be cool one of these days to do a segment on the topic you mentioned, how to be a recognized detailer in your area. So we will get her in there.
We'll do it.
We'll get it. This one, I had to laugh as I was perusing through these. Lambert's Auto Detail. All right. Hello from Toledo, Ohio. I don't know what accent you guys have. If not, I would have tried it. Mike, I switched to the gear driven a couple months ago. Thanks for your recommendation. Now my biceps are twice the size. My wife can't keep her hands off of me. See, there's an upside, people. There's an upside.
Hey, there's an old saying, the right tool for the job. Sometimes it's a free spinning tool. Sometimes it's a gear driven orbital. Sometimes it's a rotor. It's just, wisdom and experience.
All right. We have Justin Gaddy.
Yep. Gaddy,
yeah. He was the one at the Lake Country class, correct? He had the judge.
Yes, had the judge.
All right, hey guys, liking that GTO, imagine. There you go.
One of 249 built. Every option on it is technically not a judge. It just has every option the judge had. And it's painted in Matador red, so it makes it very rare. Plus it's a convertible and a big block car. Okay. And a shifter car, it's a 4-speed.
Yeah, it's a short speed. And if you guys want, take a screenshot. There's the 3-day classes link. If not, you can just go in the comments, click the link, but there's for Mike's classes. And, hey, Mike, we need to get you a map in here so we can start pinning some of these locations. We have Jack's Auto Detailing Services. Hello from South Africa. Is it night or day there?
I don't know.
Well, if you're up late, we're sorry.
If
you're up early,
thanks for joining us.
Good morning. But thank you for tuning
breakfast?
in. That's cool. South Africa. I like that. Oh, here's a good question, and I think you still can. Thad Alexander, are there any of Mike's books still available? I do believe, if I remember correctly, if you go to AutoGeek, I think they're still on there. I think you can go to their how-to section, and I think there's links still to the
The only
ebook.
ones that would be available would be the Rupes Polisher book or the Flex book. The other ones are out. Well, not only are they gone, but they're out of date.
Well, I'm talking the PDFs.
Yeah.
You can download the PDF.
Yeah,
I don't
gotcha.
think they have any printed versions left.
Could be gone.
But I think you can get an ebook version, and I'm pretty positive the Apple iBooks version is still available too,
Yeah,
which
too
has a
bad
little
I don't
bit
get a
more.
commission on any of those anymore. Hey, AutoGeek, step up to the plate and send me my reward.
Then we have, okay, he's coming back in here again. Which Lake Country wool pad are you using for rotary work?
This is a 7.5. I forget the part number. Maybe it's on there. I can take a look. The thing I like about this one is the fiber length is about 1.25 inches long.
You're out of frame.
Yeah. So the fiber length. So, and what I mean by that, they call it pile, but the length of the fiber. So here's the backing coming off. It's about 1.25 inches. So here's the deal. The shorter the fiber length, the harder the pad, the harder it feels when you're buffing, harder it is. The harder it is to clean. There's nothing good about a short fiber pad. And so this is just one. Let me see if there's a part number on here. 14-521.
You know who else? The one wool pad that I like? I like that blue and white Rupes. And you're actually the one that turned me on to that one,
Yeah,
too.
Rupes, they launched their wool pads. You know, I remember my friend Jason Rose says, well, they're just kind of a Me Too product, but they did a good job of designing it. They also have a very long fiber length. They're 100% wool. I think they only come in 6, 6.5, and 7, so there's not an 8. But when they came out, one of the first things I did is I switched over all my wool pads for my boat detailing class to the Rupes wool pads because, you know, look, if you're trying to pull sanding marks out of the side of a center console, it's already hard. You want everything working for you. Great abrasive technology, good tools, and the right pad. And they're good pads. And, of course, I throw all mine in the wash machine, wash them, they hold up really well. But yeah, and you know, the guy behind that, Jason Rose is a really smart guy when it comes to detailing. I always tell people, if he's talking, you be listening.
Yeah, he does. He drops some knowledge, that's for
But
sure.
he was the guy that was behind, at least part of the team that was behind when Meguiar's launched their Solo system. Some of you old timers might remember the Solo system. 1 chemical, 4 different pads. And but the pads were really great pads. I think they only offered the maroon one, but there was a maroon heavy cut, there was a yellow light cut, then there was a yellow foam polishing and a black finishing. That was a 4-pad system, 1 chemical, and but the wool pads were really nice. They were nice pads, and so when I saw that Rupes was launching a new wool pad, I know Jason Rose is on the team, and then I look at them and go, wow, these just look like the Solo pads, only a different color. So there's a common denominator between those things.
Okay, let's come right back in here. We have Rick Smith. Original glass just adds more character. As you see through the stone chips and everything that are on there, but
You know, last week they posted an article I wrote. I did a complete, it's like a 4 different process to a 1964 Amphicar. And that's up on the Dr. Beasley's blog. But I started by taking the wiper marks out of the glass. Then I went to machine polishing the flexible plastic window, the back window. Remember we were asked about that? And I actually used a rotary polisher on both sides of that flexible window like a Jeep top has. Then I hand rubbed out all the louvers. Then I did the paint correction to the paint, starting with a wool pad and a 2-step foam pad. Has a show car finish. Man, it was a lot of work. Never want to buff out an Amphicar the rest of my life.
All right, Sarah's coming in here. She's saying Grand National paint is worse. That's black.
Yeah, they call that magic lacquer.
Magic black.
Yeah,
magic.
lacquer.
You have more work.
You know, I've used a couple of those in detailing classes over the decades, and nowadays I avoid them because if you ever look at a Grand National, or what's the cousins to that? There's the GS, the Grand National, and the Monte Carlo.
Monte Carlo.
All like the 86, 87s,
Holds
maybe
Cutlass.
88s. They're all kind of the same body style, but they got just a ton of sharp raised body lines.
Yeah, aren't they G bodies? I think
So
that's-
they're it's not that they're difficult to buff out, but if you spend too much time on any of those raised edges on that single stage black paint, you'll burn through. So not a good training class for newbies.
Okay, we have Justin coming back in here. Would you recommend the same technique for original single stage paint?
Yes, I would. It just depends on the condition, you know, like most people know, I've written all these articles on how to restore original paint, but that's original oxidized paint. I always tell people, if you're looking at the original paint, like I got a guy that might be bringing me a 1979 Camaro Z28 black with the original paint, and I think that's a single stage. But regardless, if the paint is oxidized, there's one way to approach it. If it's got a pretty good shine, then then just treat it like paint. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Grant Hawtrey here. Can agree, Mike, it's an art form. It is.
It is an art form.
Polishing paint is an art
As
form.
I like to say, we bring the human elements of care and passion.
Oh, that was fluffy.
To just stand there and go, "Arr," that's a grinding process. But, like when I work on these toys for people like this, I mean, you got to be careful. I got to come up here and buff this component here without burning through this edge or this edge. I got to buff in here. It's full of scratches without burning through this edge or this edge. I can't burn off the RAM air letters. I'm not going to fill. So it's not just the physical energy. It's you got to look, think, and care. You got to care about doing a good job. You're not going to do a good job if you don't think about it.
Okay. Here's one. Rick Smith coming back in here. I have to say that you and Kevin Brown are the most intense paint guys I've ever seen. What keeps you motivated after all these years? I struggle sometimes.
Gosh, me and Kevin go way back. I used to travel down from Oregon to Southern California and help him manage his big 3-day booth at the Good Guys shows back in the old days. And I was actually part of the first NXT Extreme Detailing class and the second one. And those were great experiences. Kevin's a stand-up guy. But what keeps me motivated is empathy.
Empathy?
Empathy. My wife took home my original book because she doesn't want. I only have one copy. She doesn't want it down here to get destroyed. This is my second published book. I've got 7 altogether. But in the book, one of the things I wrote in my first book was I understood what it would like to be in someone else's shoes. So if you're watching this and you're brand new to detailing, specifically paint correction, now with the internet, you can go out there and there's so many products, so many tools, so many pads, and worst of all, so many opinions, okay? Here's how you do it, here's how you do it, this is the right way, that's the wrong way. So what I try to do is I try to remember my roots, that I started out like everybody else, not knowing anything. I bought all the detailing books on the market at that time and all the paint books, how to paint a carpet, because in the back of the paint books is a section on detailing. Read them all, never learned a thing.
Yeah,
so when I write a book or when I teach a class or when I write an article or I'm talking like this, I just try to go back and think about how when I started out, I couldn't get help. I just couldn't get a freaking simple answer. So that's what drives me, is to try to flatten out that learning curve, help people to get to the shine they want without having to jump through a lot of hoops.
So you're the opposite of the Grinch. Your heart is not 2 sizes too small.
You could just say I'm a nice guy.
Oh, he's a nice guy. Okay, here is a great question, and this could be another topic for another day. So I'm bookmarking this one. I'm not even going to try to say your name because it's Kusio Bachi. I said I wasn't going to try, and then I turn around and do it. Thank you for your videos. If the letters on the hood are on top of clear coat, how can one remove scratches between the letters?
You can't. You can't. Set your customers' expectations low. So one of the things you could do is you could point out to Bob, hey Bob, you notice how the whole paint's scratched up, including all the places around the lettering here? Why don't you spring for some new lettering? I'll take this off, and after I'm done polishing, I'll put the new lettering on. That's about the only way you can do it. Otherwise, you just work around it. That's the best you can do. You can't even go in there with micro tools, because I'll guarantee you what's going to happen is you're going to lift the tips, okay, of whether it's pinstriping or lettering. Once the tip lifts, it's game over. It's going to keep lifting and lifting. So just avoid and buff up to them. And again, give the customer the option to buy new lettering.
You're just going to go buy some more stuff.
Most people say no, just get good. You know, see, so I'm such not a fan of doing perfectionist detailing, because you end up working for like a penny an hour.
Okay, let's go. Show paint, Julian with rotary iron soft paint. We could probably do this. All right. Yeah, let's do this one first. This is coming from Instagram. Sorry, just the software that we have, we can't bring you straight in from Instagram, just the way. You think Facebook and Instagram, they're owned by the same company, that they would actually like let you talk to each other, but it's always weird. But anywho, Alexander, detailing trainer on Instagram, can you please show paint jeweling with a rotary on soft paint?
I don't know if you could get away with that on soft paint, because even if you use a jeweling foam pad, and I got a video that dates back about 12 years on this, the problem with anytime you're using a rotary is you risk leaving the hologram scratches even if you can't see them. They might not show up for years later. Me personally, I could share with you an article, multiple articles, where I used nothing but a rotary all the way through, pulled that car out in full sun, because most people don't do that, and showed you there's no holograms. Most people just tell you they can do it and never prove it with full sun. I proved it. But even nowadays, I would never do that. No matter how good the abrasive technology is, and here's why. Because it doesn't take any more work just to finish out with an orbital, and that ensures, I hate doing air quotes, but ensures there's not going to be holograms that'll show up down the road because the owner of the car that you buffed out doesn't take care of it. All they do is wash it, and sooner or later they'll show up. So as an insurance policy for myself, I just don't finish out with rotaries anymore, and I don't care if other guys do. Everybody can find their own way. But for me, I've got enough experience to know that it's just safer to finish out with an orbital. We could show it. I just ain't gonna endorse it.
Yeah, that was a popular one. We had like 3 other people come in here and ask the same thing.
We'll tell you what. Sometime in the future, I think I got a 1941 Willys, blown Willys coming in. That's either black or dark purple, and that would make a great jeweling because all the curves. You know?
Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll shelf that one. We'll come back, watch for the post, and we'll get that in there.
We'd love that idea.
And actually, that we could go over some special polishing techniques. Jeweling would be one of them.
And that's where, you want to get a lightweight, low RPM polisher, something like the Flex PE 150.
All right. So
they used to make these gold. Lake Country used to make these gold jeweling pads. I don't know if they make them anymore, but one of the ones that I liked
over at my shop.
They were like 3 inches thick. So they conform really well, so they're never fighting the paint at all. So that's what you want. And of course, the most important thing, great abrasive technology.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I had 1, 2, I think 3, 4 people ask that. So yeah.
Awesome.
We have Julie Powell Tree. Remember her?
Yes, Julie came down from Alaska to take our big 3-day class. That was awesome.
She's saying hey to everybody.
Hey, Julie.
Then we have Grant coming back in. Wow, solar system, that's a throwback. That is. Okay, so now let's go. We got just a couple more questions here. Actually, this one's a good one, and you're going to be helping this customer or this person. Lambert's Auto Detail LLC. I had a potential customer ask if I could polish this classic enamel paint car. Any knowledge to know ahead of time?
I love polishing lacquers and enamels. In fact, I think they polish up super high gloss, but all comes back to using great abrasive technology. So I'm not sure what you're using, but do a test spot first, wipe off and inspect, and sometimes it helps to do a tape line, although you got to be careful. By tape line, I mean you put a piece of tape down, buff on one side, then you can easily identify what the 2 results look like on the 2 sides. Just don't buff on the tape, or you'll leave a line in the paint that you can't get out. But just do a test spot and dial in a process. If it's not white paint, it's probably more to the medium to the soft side, so you won't have to get super aggressive. And just always remember, if you're working on original single-stage paint, that if you buff too long, you're going to expose the primer, and after the primer, you're going to be exposing steel, and you'll make it shiny.
Hey, you wanted a DeLorean, right?
By the way, for our February 3-day class, this is really cool. Working on original single-stage paint at this point in the world history is very rare because A, most people that own a car like that won't let anybody buff it, and B, a lot of these cars have been repainted. But I've got a 1970 Charger coming in. It's white with the original factory enamel paint, 30,000 miles. And I'm going to use that for one of my training cars because in our big 3-day classes, I always try to bring in something with single stage so you get that experience. It's not like it's new to you. So that's in February 16th, 17th, and 18th. And I got some wicked bad car. I got a 58 Impala coming in for that. And but I'll have a bunch of wicked bad cars for that.
Wicked bad. You from
Wicked
Boston
bad.
now?
Well, hey, buffing out a 30,000 mile. What's the one that the what's his name drove in the Fast and Furious? The Charger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a 70 Charger, all original, 30,000 miles. It's got the green gator skin vinyl top on it, factory.
All right. We have just a couple more. I'm just going to rattle through these because they're more just like comments. We have High Shine Detailing. Greetings from Siberia. It's almost midnight. Then we have one more coming in from Instagram. Hello from Manchester, England. What's the paint depth on the GTO before and after a 3-stage correction?
I never measured. I don't really care. My goal was not to see primer.
I just didn't want to see.
I got a paint thickness gauge, but look, it's a good idea to use one. But here's the deal: as long as you're using good technique, the right tool, the right patent, good abrasive technology, it is what it is. Custom cars like this with custom paint jobs tend to have more paint on them. So I use a paint thickness gauge to make what I call the go or no-go decision. But on this car, I already figured the paint was thick enough. It wouldn't be. That's the least of my worries. Plus, I'm using great abrasive technology.
Okay. Now this is the same guy.
It wouldn't be much.
All right. This is the same guy coming in twice. So let's just bring up this one first. Tundra Whisperer. So my 2018 Dodge Charger Daytona 392 has hard paint. It's done in yellow jacket color. What's the best polish to use on yellow to make it pop?
Well, it goes back to doing a test spot, but I would highly endorse going up to Dr. Beasley's and purchasing the NSP Trio. I think it's about $100. You get the NSP 150, the 95, and the 45, and then make sure you got a good selection of pads, and then whatever your polisher of choice is. So I just turn this paint thickness gauge on, and I will set it down here. We're at 10.1. If I come back up here right next to this chrome trim where I probably have not buffed it a lot, we'll see what it says. 12.2, so a difference of about 1 mil.
Okay. Then let's go, we're on the other camera now, Mike.
Okay.
And the last one is from Toledo Whisperer also. And I had to save this one for the last because he said, nice car, nice challenge. Or Charger, sorry.
It is a nice car. Something I forgot to add. When you have hard paints like this, one of the benefits to them is they resist scratching.
They do.
So they look good longer.
Yeah,
yes.
I've been at so many car shows, and people know that I'm in this business, that, you're constantly touching your car. And I go, honestly, my car is abused. I don't have time. I run 2 businesses. I don't have time. One. Yeah. Did I say that? I don't have time. But literally, I haven't touched my car with a polisher, and that was just a one step. And that's been at least 3 years. And I was showing him before we went on that there really is no swirls
defects
or anything like that. I mean, I got an etching in the back from where a bird did its little duty on it.
So hard paints will resist wear and tear better than soft paints. The downside is correcting them is more time consuming because they're so hard.
They're so hard. But I swear by this, and I love this color. It's easy to maintain, wash it, throw a sealant on it, and go. So with that, I hope that you guys got a lot out of this. I think he was going like 397 miles an hour a couple times. I was like, oh. But if you do, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell all your friends. And, just like I always say, if you have ideas, which some really good ones showed up in the comments about ideas for doing some videos, and actually a couple of those I want to do. I think there's some really good ideas in there. Put them in the comments, email Mike or whatever.
Yeah, I've got one coming up. I have a guy that I take care of all the classic Corvettes and new Corvettes he buys. He just bought a 65 Roadster with the hardtop. The back window on those is plexiglass. It is so scratched up. And a couple years ago, I took and sanded, machine dry sanded the inside and the outside and restored one of these till it's like a piece of glass. And we're going to show that here too.
All right. See? We're always thinking about you guys. So with that, are we doing another one next week? Because we got your class on...
Yeah, I have a class on the 20th that's coming up. I think we are. We're doing something. I'll have a brand new Corvette down here. Maybe we'll do something on that.
All right, we'll do something.
Brand new 2024 Corvette.
Are you going to have all your cars in here for the class? Or some of them?
Yeah, some of them will be here.
So
by Wednesday,
we'll do a walk around with the remote cam
Cuda should be here
and
for
show you
sure.
some things. But for that, I think we're done. I think we're about 10 minutes over. We're trying to keep them about an hour. This one ran a little bit long, but he went into a major dump. So I hope you guys can rewind it. You might want to go slow down instead of speed up.
That's a brain dump, by the way.
Well, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. But like I said, thank you all. And Mike is going to leave you guys out here. He's going to sing the national anthem for us.
No, I'm going to gear up, change shirts, and start working on this car.
All right. Say bye.
Hey, thanks for joining us, everybody. It's a lot of fun.